Hello, YouTube. I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney on this channel. On this channel, we answer publicly posted questions from YouTube users, getting folks the answers they need from an employment attorney. And a little wiped out today. A little wiped out. A woman basically told me that because I wouldn't take her case, I was murdering her family. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not going to say anything she actually said because that would be a violation. Like, no identifying characteristics, no statements she actually made. But that's the gist of it. And I didn't really know what to say, so I was like, I'm sorry you feel that way. That was the wrong thing to say, apparently. But I digress. To the question. Recently, I put out a video entitled How Different Are Mental Disability Claims from Physical Disability Claims? And I was very uncomfortable putting that video out because I thought I was a little too frank, a little too flippant about some of the things I said in that video. Although I stand by the content, I was just a little uncomfortable with how I said things. But true to my bull in a porcelain shop mentality, is that... Can we still say bull in a china shop? I guess China is an object, not a nation in that statement, so maybe that's fine. I just went ahead and posted it anyways. But on that video, YouTube user Pocuz, P-O-E, Cuz, C-U-Z, said, I have PTSD due to early childhood trauma based on my consistent I read that as a run-on sentence, which is on me. I have PTSD due to early childhood trauma. Based on my consistent comments during therapy, my therapist told me that I should consider getting a new attorney because my attorney was further traumatizing me with his passive-aggressive and abusive behavior. I realized that she was absolutely correct. Terminating my connection with that attorney was a very productive and healthy thing for me to do. Now, this is something, I saw this video and I wanted to comment on it. This happens a lot. And let me explain a little bit about why. And there's different whys. And Pocuz, I fully know and believe that you're this first group that I'm going to describe here. Often, and I include myself in this group, often the people who choose to fight every day of their life, of their career at least, about hate crimes and only get paid when they rip money out of the other side, it may surprise you, but those people are often very conflict-oriented. And conflict-oriented people often have a number of survival traits, coping mechanisms, strategies, tactics that they approach life with that are not conducive to hearing and empathizing and understanding the people they're talking to, because they've built a life on getting ahead by not hearing and empathizing other humans, right? That's a viable life strategy, right? There's people who get ahead by building coalitions and manipulating others. There's people who get ahead by listening and caring and really hearing others. And there's people who get ahead by cracking heads. And there's people who get ahead by verbally winning arguments, right? And an unlimited number of other infinite possible ways of getting ahead, right? But generally, employment attorneys are going to have some mix of a lifetime of learned high conflict strategies and often low empathy, low emotional skills. It just doesn't pay, right? The empaths who become employment attorneys, they're amazing. for 3 to 5 years. It's you don't you don't harvest corn and silk, right? You wear a little bit thick, heavy canvas. And an empath, in a lot of ways, a little bit like silk. It's beautiful, wonderful, fantastic fabric. Makes life more pleasant. Makes people more comfortable. And it just gets ripped to shreds. It's a tortured metaphor. Thank you for letting me get away with that tortured metaphor. But let's stick with it. So the empath is the silk, right? It's great. They can do so much to help people. Will they be as effective in the fight portion of employment law? They actually might. I'm not saying they wouldn't be. I'm actually just primarily saying they don't seem to last. The head crackers, the bullheaded, be right at any cost, fight, go down swinging, rage against the dying of your claim human beings who often last in this field are often desperately inadequate and in terms of their own conversations with their clients. Routinely. More often than not, in my opinion. And there's a lot you can do to address that. Like hard and fast rules. If your client's talking, listen till they stop. Well, I don't have all day. Nah, that person's paying you a sizable contingency, I'm sure. There's that person, you're well compensated. Listen until they stop talking. And jot down notes of what they're saying so that you're not just thinking about how you're going to tell them they're wrong. Right? That's a very simple, tangible thing that you can do as an attorney who is probably not good at listening and who may actually be, unfortunately, disinterested in listening to your clients. There's a lot of attorneys doing that too. There's a lot of attorneys like, listen, you don't even know the law. I know how I'm going to make you money here. Just enough with the talkie. Let me go make you the money, right? Not viable, right? That, don't get me wrong. There's times when the clients come in and say like, hey, I think we should argue that because there's a pond outside my office, they're causing my depression. Yeah. Todd, listen, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. Counterpoint, your boss calls you a deppy baby because you told him you have depression and makes fake crying sounds when you walk by. I suspect that's the case, and the pond outside might be incidental. Right? That's probably, I feel like probably that's the case. I'm glad we had this conversation. I'm glad I heard you out. But I got to tell you, I'm not going to make that argument. Sorry. That's fine too. But difference is, you heard Toddley out. Right? And you didn't know what Toddley was going to say. Toddley could have been like, listen, I just remembered that when my manager would say those horrible things to me, he would throw bottle caps at me. And it really bothered me. You know what? That was valuable. That was valuable. You just added to the case. That is an additional thing that can be corroborated by witnesses that could cause jurors to be like, what is wrong with these people? Like this is value. You've added value by listening to the client, right? Um, and I'm being silly. I'm being facetious, right? Like, nothing's ever that simple, that cut and dry, or that this outsized, this wild. So I guess Polka's primarily what I'm saying here is I very much believe what you're saying, and it's very, very common that attorneys in this field approach conversations with clients in aggressive, inadequate manners. This has nothing to do with you. The next part of this answer has nothing to do with you. There are also clients who will be like, hey, what do you think my case is worth? And I'll be like, yeah, I think you should make a demand of, I don't know, 500 grand. I think that'd be a good demand. I think that's going to be, a good emotional damages component. And then in terms of your economic damages, that would make sense here. Make sense for you. And they'll say, well, you're invalidating my experience and you're traumatizing me by making that number up. Okay. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Sure. I want 30 million. And you're belittling me by saying my case is only worth 500,000. Okay. Okay, I mean, we did the damages calculation. We did this very in depth, and that was the ballpark that we arrived at. It's also the ballpark we discussed before you retained us. Could you tell me a little bit more about how I'm traumatizing you? I want to dig into this to see if I can do better. No, you victimized me. I'm filing a complaint against you, and I'll be suing you. Okay. Well, it's a free country. What do you want me to do with this case in the meantime? Demand 30 million. Oh, you're gonna sue me, and you want me to keep fighting the case. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to have some conversations about this. Obviously, right? And that happens too, Pokas, and this has nothing to do with you, right? But there's just people who are like going to paper the way they feel. Like they want certain things, they caught the greedies, or they just want to play victim, whatever it is, whatever's going on in their life. They're just gonna like apply the narrative they want to the conversation so they can feel the way they want to feel. That happens too. And when that happens, as an attorney, I'm like, okay, but I did listen all the way, right? Like I listened hard and to the end. And I sought understanding, and I fought the mistaken instinct to argue, to dismiss, right? Those are bad instincts for an attorney when speaking with their client. They're also kind of bad instincts when an attorney when they're fighting with the other side, right? Like, don't just dismiss what they're saying. Think about it, right? If they're like, well, listen, your client didn't file this report a single time, and there's 9 write-ups about how your client didn't file this report. You can dismiss that, and you may ultimately dismiss that as an evidence point. But you should still be like, how is that going to look to the jury or the arbitrator or the judge, whoever it is, right? How's that going to look? Don't just dismiss it. You might agree or disagree ultimately, but like, hear the argument. It could be a meaningful data point that will inform how you approach settlement or inform how you prepare for trial. So the instinct to dismiss or belittle is always wrong. Always in an argument. Or a disagreement or a conversation with your client, which should not be argumentative if in any way avoidable, right? But sometimes, no matter how hard you listen or how much you validate or how much you seek understanding and depth of understanding and work at all the pieces that you're not understanding, right? Like, okay, you're saying you want 30 million. How do we get to that number? It's what I want. Okay. What leads you to want it? 30 million. Buy stuff I want. Okay. Why do you think the case is worth 30 million? Because I want 30 million. Oh, okay. Right. But that conversation can go another way, right? Why do you want 30 million? Well, I had a vesting package, and I think that if my shares vested, when this company IPOs, my shares will be worth 30 million. Okay. Why do you think your shares will be worth 30 million? Because our closest near peer competitor IPO'd and similar amounts of shares were actually worth 60 million for them. I think our technology is slightly inferior, so I think mine will only be worth 30 million. Guess what you just did? By listening and understanding and querying, you found some extra money. Like that, your client might be right, might not be right, but guess what? It's one hell of an argument, right? You're now arguing about $30 million instead of 500 grand. That's a good day. That's a good thing. You might not get the 30 million. The other side's not going to agree with that valuation, but boy, have you unlocked an extra avenue of value, right? Like it's much better to be at a position of 30 million with a defensible position than it is to be at 500,000 with a similarly defensible position, right? Like if you have to pick a defensible position, have it attached to a larger dollar sign, right? That would be good. That's positive. And you found that by listening instead of being dismissive. So it's great, right? I'm just saying often, not even often. Sometimes with certain clients, they're just not going to be able to do that, right? And that's because clients are human beings. And as human beings, we're all deeply flawed. It's not like, oh, plaintiffs in this field are trash. No, plaintiffs in this field are human beings. So are attorneys in this field and every other field, right? And because we're human beings, we're all deeply flawed. And because attorneys in this industry selected a super high conflict means of making a living, they might not have the most developed emotional, empathic skill set. So, bringing it full circle, making a 20-minute video for no apparent reason, I think Pokaz, you make a great point here. There's definitely abusive attorneys. And there's attorneys who are abusive without meaning to be. They legitimately may not know what they're doing to their clients. Like, I'm pretty sure I have trained attorneys who, like, eventually learned that their behaviors got negative results from their clients, but never learned why. Like, I'm actually thinking of one specific, actually no, more than one, but I've had to say the phrase, you need to stop telling your clients they're stupid. Your clients aren't stupid. Your clients earn massive amounts of money doing complex things in fields that you would never be able to contend in. And this attorney was like, but they're stupid. And eventually that person just learned to stop saying to people's faces that they're stupid. And went on to have a successful career. Not with my firm, but they're doing well. And they didn't learn that people aren't stupid, and they didn't learn that that's not a useful thing to say, and they didn't even learn that they're not as smart as they think they are. What that person learned was to not tell clients they're stupid. It's a very narrow thing, but it did make a huge difference in that person's career. It's not the full lesson I wanted that person to learn, and I suspect that person right now, somebody may have shown that person this video, and that person's like screaming at the screen right now about how stupid their clients are. And they're still wrong, but they get to have a career, and they got to help a lot of people because at least they learned to stop telling their clients to their face how stupid their clients are. And again, just to be clear, Their clients are not stupid. Their clients are not stupid at all. But that doesn't matter because we're talking about how this attorney feels, not the reality of the situation. All right, I'm ranting. I think a lot of people are gonna have stories about this. I think a lot of people who watch this channel have a lot of grief stories about their experiences with attorneys. I would love to hear them. I'm always very fascinated by how attorneys fail clients in this field and how attorney-client relationships break down. That's fascinating to me. And it's one of the great tragedies of this industry. Like you'll see, med mal attorneys, personal injury attorneys. You get these big firms because they scale. You can have lots of attorneys. This field, that cannot happen. For whatever reason, it's just never happened. And I think it's because you can't get enough people who opt into this field to be caring towards their clients, to be listening, right? Even if you don't have the emotional ability to empathize, you can still listen. Listening is binary. You're either doing it or you're not. If you listen, that's such a huge step forward. Even if you don't get the next step, listening without dismissing is 90% of the way there. Anyways, comments below. Like, subscribe, comment, share the channel so it will grow. Bye, everybody.